Forces of the unknown have caused our world to merge/combine with a typical or not so typical fantasy world. Old world governments have managed to hold on to power urban and suburban areas, but rural areas range from fragile peace to complete chaos. People in towns from either side suddenly find themselves in a new realm, and portals going between both worlds are scattered throughout the lands. Be me and on, camping in the woods. Took a week off to go with some old friends from high school, from back before the merge. Better times, but worse times at the same time. One of the guys brought this demi-human girlfriend. Some crazy tsundere bitch with cat ears. Hasn't stopped affectionately insulting him all night, but he seems to like it. Never pegged him for a masochist, but people change. The one that really changed was Phil. Phil came out as a gay back in school. We all told him he was a fag, but he was our fag. But this was a little over the line. He brought his boyfriend. But fine, everyone brought their own shelter anyway. So as long as they keep it down, or so I thought. Turns out this guy is an orc. And a big orc. Seems alright so far. Brought some booze to share. Still weary. Around a goblinoid. Always be paranoid. Everyone else silently shares my worries, even as the literal faggot orc continues to be a bro by passing around a plate of full jerky he made himself. Nice to see Phil found a guy who wasn't a campy bastard. Camp gay is the worst kind. Sniff jerky before eating, but nobody thinks it's weird. I've always done that for some autistic reason or another. Jerky is spicy, as the Lord intended. The night wears on. People get wasted and eat jerky. Fagork whips out a fucking 12-string from his kit, made of wood and metal, carved with a little orcish writing. Fagork just strums along on his orcish guitar. Pretty nice style, like if Jimi Hendrix had learned to play acoustic instead, although Hendrix may have been who he was trying to emulate. Eventually get so wasted I black out. Next morning, hangover, surrounded by empty magazines and spent brass. Shirt is not only not on me, but entirely absent from the sight. Fashioned an MRE wrapper into a hat at some point. Vague recollection of someone screaming Skinwalker. Check for signs. Lol, just a single dead goblin with a few hundred rounds in it. It had a golden coin which I pocket. Fagork keeps being a bro by passing around a hangover cure. Fagork isn't so bad after all. Nobody ass raped or murdered in their sleep. Nothing stolen. Phil obviously trusts him. Shake his hand. Ask him to keep in touch for further parties. He agrees. And that's how I made friends with a faggot orc. Be me, Wagner operative. Get exploded in Mariupol. Wake up on the border of Skyrim. What the fuck, .jpg? Realize I still have my shit on me. I'm handcuffed though. Luckily, only my wrists are cuffed. Grab a hand grenade and throw it into the carriage ahead. Everyone dies. The survivors are in awe of my Thum and start worshipping me. Victory? Threadly prompt. What's the proper way to avoid getting raped in the butt by elf women when alone? Kevlar undies and rape 'em back. Hi everyone, so I came up with some elf races. The best fantasy race for Fankishi, based off of Viking folklore, kinda like J.R. Tolkien. Here's the list is: regular elves, light elves, high elves, wood elves, dark elves, shadow elves, sea elves, wild elves, bright elves, snow elves, night elves, day elves, fire elves, earth elves, water elves, wind elves, horned elves, chocolate elves, twilight elves, elves with tails, winged elves, fat elves, Futanari elves, dwarf elves, green-skinned elves, albino elves that live in caves and are malnourished, half-elves, half-elf, half-elf, centaur elves, Christmas elves, dark elves from Thor, elves that have rabies, moon elves, sun elves, blood elves, blue-skinned elves with AIDS, African elves, they are black, apes that are cousins to elves and have pointy ears. Cloud elves, land elves, sea elves, sick elves, poison elves, dead elves, volcano elves, shrimp elves, blue elves like from Avatar, giant elves, were elves, Neander elves, pink skin elves, just like Ponk skin, thick elves, Elves with 2 S's, island elves, space elves, lightning elves, void elves, vampire elves, poop elves. Sorry, I just had to make a little joke in here, XD. Fart elves. Whoops, I did it again. Get the fuck off of my board, new fag. We should be talking about Ukraine and Israel. Boss, but it's a human midget, 5'6", in a town full of dwarves. Weird timing. I've been kicking around a story idea for an alt history World War II that fits decently within the thread. Tunguska event is actually the opening of a dimensional gate. Dragon-like creatures cross into our world. Stay confined to inner Siberia until late teens. Population boom from feasting on the dead from the Russian and Chinese Civil War. Locals begin worshipping them, offering sacrifices to keep themselves alive. Dragon worshippers take power in Russia and China by the early 1930s. Begin raiding neighboring countries for sacrifices. Not sure how I'd do the rest of the world stage. I mainly just want to have heavy fighters boom and zooming fucking dragons with 50 API and 20mm. That's weird because I also have been mulling over a World War I setting that diverges from the Tunguska event for about 5 years. Tunguska itself crashes into Siberia mostly intact. Spews supernatural phenomena across the surrounding area. The great powers send expeditions into the XP of the punitive expeditions to China. The meteor itself is full of boundless caverns, like Stalker's Zone, mixed with some fantasy elements. Spoiler, only problem is I am a dogshit artist and have been for 5 years. Wow, haven't seen one of these in a good while, but haven't been on K in a while either. Any progress on Skinwalker GF story or Black Powder Anon story? Glad to see these threads are still a thing. I showed my wood elf my compound bow and he called me a faggot and said it wasn't a real bow, 'cause it ain't got wood.